They're all local to the three counties, but there's more to them than that because they've all been given the once over by a group of 17 to 25-year-olds from Milton Keynes who are neither out to prove or disprove the paranormal. Sounds bizarre, doesn't it? Well, they've come together to make a documentary about their ghostly findings. And here to tell us more are some of the members, Wade Radford and Victoria Howler. Afternoon to you guys.
Afternoon.
Hi. Hello, welcome along. Thanks for coming in.
All right, so as somebody who was a skeptic prior to doing your paranormal show, what made you decide to want to do something like that as being a skeptic?
Skeptical, but very interested. I grew up watching horror films. I get, like a lot of kids, got a real kick out of Halloween and, spooky tales and pranking my friends. And so I was always very into everything spooky. Skeptic, yeah, I think deep down I was skeptic, but at the same time, there were weird occurrences that made me interested while I was growing. I grew up in a very odd house. And my room in the house was particularly odd. And even though I used to rationalize those things, there was just something about spirits, entities, ghosts that just really intrigued me. And we got to remember, when I started doing this, we found VHS and 8mm tapes going back as far as 2004 when I wasn't making a show. There wasn't a lot going on at the time. I'm not going to say that I was the creator of a genre. There were paranormal shows going on at the time, but it wasn't a vibe. It really wasn't a vibe. And the internet was in its infancy. So I just wanted to, when the bits I had seen of TV shows, I thought it was a load of rubbish, to be honest, what was on the TV. And I wanted to do something where I found something out one way or the other, whether I could draw a line under it for myself and go, this is rubbish, or I could say I found something that's really interesting. And that was what I wanted to do.
Is there anyone there? Any ghosts, spirits, astral beings, or orbs? Shit! Come on, if you're still with us, do something.
I think I just heard a footstep over there.
So, did you immediately go into doing the ghost hunting, or did you do like different types of shows before that?
It was only this year, as well as the Busby stuff, that we found all of the 8mm VHS tapes. So we have gone through, I couldn't even tell you, just archives and archives of stuff. And it wasn't clear in my head. When I first started all this Busby stuff, I couldn't even remember the year that we filmed at the Busby. So piecing this journey together, what I was saying a year ago to people is different to what I'm saying now. That's because I thought I had it right in my head, but I didn't. And the more and more tapes that I've come across down south in lofts and and stuff like that, and boxes, I think the first video I can find of me showing an interest in the paranormal is either late 2003 or 2004. And this wasn't me making a show. I think in my own mind I was making a show. I was just at a guess, maybe 13 years old. But it's so funny because I forgot that I used to do that. And what I was doing was setting up lock-off cameras on tripods using my dad's equipment, these 8mm handheld cameras, and I was setting them up on tripods. Now, of course, this was amusing to me when I found it, because come 2007, that's a type of independent film, Paranormal Activity. The very basis of that is people setting off lock-off cameras. Now, I'm not saying I was the first to do that either, but I wasn't really using the internet much. So in my mind, I was like, what would happen if you put a camera on a tripod and left it recording? And and it's so funny to me now that my young self would be humbled that I wasn't the only person that had that idea. But at the time, I obviously thought this is quite clever. Not at all. But it is interesting to me that it may be. It's so funny that it was something I did at 13 years old, then becomes an archetype film genre for fiction movies, and that's hilarious.
The two of us don't have any GCSEs. We're two people that have sort of gone out to prove to the world that we can do this without having the full education, as some people put it. I mean, I left school in year 9 because I was facing bullying and things like that, and I had to leave. And Wade, you left in year 10, I think.
Yeah, year 10. And, you know, that's why, I mean, there's a lot of people that work for us that haven't had the opportunities in life to go and do things like this, and that's what we wanted. We didn't want to... Right, if that was you, repeat this again after me. Did you hear that again? What?
Didn't move. Not me.
That wasn't a floorboard, that was it was a creak, and it could have been the building creaking, but... Please repeat this after me again. We're getting so close to being able to have a... We're getting really close to being able to have a conversation with you.
The first year I started working on material that I wanted to put out on the internet, someone else told me it was the same year that the big US show Ghost Adventure started. I'm not really familiar, but I know of it, but I've never really sat and watched it. And we're talking about a time, I believe, you might be able to help me here, but I believe in around 2003, 2004 was still the days when you could only upload a few minutes of footage to YouTube at a time.
Yeah, I think
Is
it was
that
like
correct?
5 minutes or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it went depends on the file type, so it could just be a couple of minutes. So there was me cutting down moments of phenomena that I found interesting and then uploading them to YouTube in little segments. But I mean, this stuff wasn't me presenting a show. The stuff I was uploading at that time, I was clearly a child. Every time there was a tap, you know, and I mean that's the way everyone starts out, right? And you know, so I wasn't really making a structured or attempting to make a structured show. But you know, even in saying that, there's one particular clip where me and a friend of mine I don't even know where we're filming now. It's outside somewhere, and we're filming this metal gate. And I have cut the clip up to show. And we're filming this metal gate. And when I call, on the 2 times I call, you can hear something land down on this gate and you hear the ping. And then what's interesting to me is when I watched the footage back, there's a lot of my actual show where people in the crew are going, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" And we're going, "No, we heard fuck all." And but what's different about this clip at me at like 13 or 14 years old is you hear it very loud and clear. So this stuff was happening from way back when.
So what was the impetus? When did you get the idea to do a paranormal show?
It comes in 2 parts, really. There was one where I thought I had the idea and I was trying to make it happen. It was not, you know, I think I was still too young. Well, all the paranormal footage, I'm still too young. You know, still a bit wet behind the ears. And so there is footage when I started out where we're making a show, but that never transpired. But doing those shows, I met, I already knew Victoria Howlett, and she had a really big interest in the paranormal, and her family felt the same as well. And we just glued, me and Vicky. We both believed in the same mission. We wanted to make a show. So we became that foundation, and then we actually held auditions to try and find suitable crew members for it. And as you can imagine, when people are teenagers, every season we filmed, there is an up and down of crews with very few staples of it. One of the girls that's in the Busby documentary, Emma Raymond, she was there from, like me and Vicky, from start to finish. And there's a couple of others that did quite a lot, but mostly people are in and out. Me, Vicky, and Emma are like the main staples that went sort of, I suppose in answer to your question, when did we finesse a first series of a show? That was 2007. And from there, us 3 sort of carried it through right till the end. You know, and so yeah, it was 2007, and we made a series, and this will bowl you over with the creativity. We'd made a series called The Haunting.
A very original title.
Yeah. What can I say?
No, but as you can see, we do like to provide all the best services for our crew, unfunded. Right, we're now in the main bar area. We've just started the first vigil of tonight. The funny thing that's happened is we usually use, if you come over here I'll show you where they're based, we put behind the bar 2 infrared motion sensors, which the idea of these is if you walk through the beam, it sets an alarm off. So if an energy breaks the beam, it sets an alarm off. And we've used these on many locations if you watch previous episodes. But just before we started filming, twice the alarm has gone off, and it's the first time the alarm has ever gone off. Oh my god! Okay, Vicky, what do you make of that?
I've got to say, I'm actually very, very shocked, especially with the timing of that one, and quite terrified, considering nothing we've ever encountered before has had the power to make those go off. I think we should probably put them on again.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
And do it on
just
request.
go around everyone. Right, the infrareds are now set up again. I mean, that was just really incredible timing. Like I said, we heard them twice before we started filming for tonight's vigil, and I mean, me and Vicky were really shocked because we've used them so many times and nothing's ever happened, and that was just really perfect timing. But what I was trying to say about them anyway is the infrared motion sensors, if an energy warps through them, it breaks the infrared beam, and that's what sets the alarm off. And I mean, that was just absolutely incredible timing. We've never had it happen, like we've never even heard them happen before. We've just used them on every location. It's never happened. So twice before the vigil began, and then just once now, straight away. Jess, what did you make of the timing of that?
I think
Oh my god, Jesus Christ.
Somebody definitely knows it.
We'll leave them off for a minute. Right, shall we just get straight round the seance table straight away?
yes, why not?
Right, so do you remember the very first paranormal show that you recorded?
The first one where we went into it and said we're making a series. Yeah, I think I do. We went to some ruins called the St. Peter Ruins. And there was this big team of 8 of us. It was outside, so of course we hadn't considered built-in microphones not coping with the wind and stuff like that. So that was our first episode, and I can confirm for you that absolutely nothing happened. It was, I believe, on the tape, my humour must have always been there to some degree, because I believe the tape was marked episode Silent Night. Yet again, creative. You know, but an interesting point on that front, which I am very proud of us all, even as teenagers, we didn't hide things. We would release silent episodes within the series where bugger all happened, because we weren't trying to con people. There was no money to be made out of this. We were using shitty Argos brought cameras that were £250 each. I was using my pocket money to pay for tapes. We were there because we wanted to be there. And that, now I'm grown up and not embarrassed by it anymore, I find that admirable that a group of young people would come together, and rather than going out the weekend and having sex and partying, we were out looking for ghosts. And every penny we had, we spent on what we're doing because we believed in wanting to find out if there was something or if there wasn't. And we had more episodes that were silent and shit than episodes that we recorded what was happening. And I'm proud of that. We recorded what was going on. If nothing was going on, we recorded the nothing that was going on.
So, was there ever a time when you were doing the paranormal investigating where you just thought, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this?
No, I loved it. I loved it. And everyone else involved loved it. You know, we take this setup where people go, oh, there's so many more cooler things you could have been doing at 15 or 16. In hindsight now, I go, no, there's not. We could have been doing we could have been doing what everyone else was doing. But what really struck me when I wrote the Busby book, and that was the first time I'd even given thought consideration to those days in a long, long time. And I'd certainly, until I did that book, not seen footage from it for at least 12, 13 years. And what really struck me is no one was fed up. We were having a brilliant time. we were friends. We were getting to be up all night with each other at the weekends, and we were good friends, and we were kind of a loser squad, and everyone was having a blast. And I don't know how we pulled it off, because week after week we were going to pubs and hotels and nightclubs, and people, the setup would be, I would ring up and I'd go, hello, this is Wade Radford. I run a youth paranormal team in Milton Keynes, and we are filming a new series of the show, and here's the age, we're a group of 15 to 25-year-olds or whatever it was. And in this day and age, surely someone would go, you're asking me if you can come and be left in my business overnight. And they just say, fuck off now, surely. And so there's for a kid that I became embarrassed of as I got to about 20 years old, there was this bit where I just went, the brass neck of you, and I would spend 6-hour days ringing around places to Del Boy them into letting us come into the building. And I just don't think it would happen anymore.
No.
And so I felt incredibly proud of my younger self when I watched them tapes again, because I remembered that journey to having to sell yourself to be trusted. In the case of the Busby, no one stayed on site, which is what made that EVP more important. They went home miles away and left me with the key to the building to lock up after I was done. I mean, it's just crazy. There was, if you reckon in that pub, there's tens of thousands of pounds worth of alcohol. There's a whole business that could go up in flames with an electrical fault. The list is endless. So I thought that was incredible, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that never could have happened today.
Never. And I don't think so. I not to that length. I mean, when I started leaving lock off cams and I wanted to actually make a show, the first time I started approaching businesses, or me and Vicky approached businesses, we were 15 years old. And I remember one place we filmed in, and they made us really welcome. And this was on the first series of our show. And it was a very posh restaurant for sort of Sunday dinner and everything. And their speciality was, it was like a golfing memorabilia restaurant, walls covered in expensive golfing memorabilia. All the top golfers had been there, and it was a very exclusive place, but it was in this beautiful Jacobean building. And some people had mentioned it, so me and Vicky went along, and we said, can we investigate? So we went, and a guy stayed with us that night, and we investigated, because sometimes these fully grown adults wanted to stay and join in, and that was, yet again, we just went, it's so wonderful that they taking us seriously and want to be here. And that happened so many times. But after we filmed there, yet again, the brass neck of me and Vicky, we said to the owner, can we come down and speak to you? Because one, we'd really love to do a follow-up investigation. Two, we want to talk to you about something else. And we came down. I think Galloway's was the 4th episode we've ever done. So we were 4 episodes deep into the actual show. Our equipment was shite. And we went down, and this lovely man called David, he welcomed us in. Yeah, come on, really busy Sunday. And he said, come and have a seat at the table. And we sit down, and he said, I'll be with you soon. He said, I've just got to sort some stuff out. He said, do you want a drink? Yeah, we'll have a drink. And then he went, he said, do you want a Sunday dinner? And we went, we haven't got any money. He said, oh, that's not why I asked. I said, do you want a Sunday dinner? Well, yep. Living the celebrity high life, right? And he comes and sits down, and we just chat, tell him all the things we're doing, all the ambitions we're doing. And we said to him, would you sponsor us as the restaurant? Like, we put your logo at the beginning and the end. And, we're looking for, like, I don't know, we just want a new camera. It's like, we can get a second-hand one for like $150. And he went, absolutely, that's brilliant. Anyway, he went away, and he came back, and he just gave us this wad of cash. It was hundreds of pounds of money. And he just said, I love what you're doing and your ambition. And the more we went along, people were treating us like this, Wait, I know this is going to sound really weird. It smells like bananas. I can smell bananas.
You're joking.
I can smell bananas. What? There used to be a banana. What, I got that right? Yeah. I can smell bananas. I've just had it waft across my face. That's what it was. That's really what it was. Did you smell up here?
In 1940,
This was it 1920 or 1940?
About 1940.
So I can still smell the air, Vicky, here.
Just after the Second World War,
It was a banana
45, 46,
Yeah.
it was banana curing.
And that's right. That, honestly, Dawn and Neil would not tell us what this smell was. And when I thought downstairs, I thought it might be stereotypical, like a lot of places like cigar smoke or that. And I've just said that because I've got the waft of bananas across my face, and that, if you're telling me that's what you guys smell, that's incredible.
That's what it used to be.
That's amazing.
That happened.
I'll make a sound, please repeat it back to me. Here we go. Oh, did you hear it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I don't know if the camera back, it was back off here, wasn't it? I'll make a sound, please repeat it back to me. Here we go.
I mean, we had, lovely experience. We were invited to BBC Radio numerous times on different BBC radio shows to talk about it. And the most amusing thing was we were getting to do stuff on the TV and on radio, which even local radio stations, our ratings were not good enough to even be considered. We shouldn't have been getting these opportunities. but people invited us on, and it was that, I believe it was that vibe of a group of young people saying we can do this, and that became infectious.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I can still even hear it in your voice and your face as you're talking about it. How much you loved it at the time. It's amazing.
I did love it, and the biggest shame of this is for the period that I forgot how to love it. 2011 was season 3, the last season of the Finesse show. And I got the opportunity to make an indie film the year after, and one of my scripts to come to life. And I buried all this. I ripped everything down from the internet because, the darker side of it is that for all the things that were going well, I wouldn't call it so much bullying, but we were a joke to our peers of our age. If I had a penny for every time someone went, oh, you're investigating a pub, are you? I bet there's loads of spirits in here, as they pointed at the alcohol bottles by. And it was, when things like that happen, it's funny in hindsight, but we heard the same jokes all the time. And that was the part of it that became soul crushing, because I suppose we were so ambitious that we went, you're mocking us. And so I got tired of that and buried it all, for lack of a pun. But since the Busby came back around, I celebrate it all now. I celebrate even the moments that we were very young and screaming a lot, because without them early days, there was no Busby. And the Busby was not finessed. When I watched that footage back and the restoration that needed to be done, for all that I'd reached my professional peak, it was still very amateur, because that's what I had to work with. For me, it was professional at the time. You don't get a more professional investigation than the way I handled the Busby, because that was my attempt to make a feature-length film about one place, to spend a whole weekend in the area. I'd never attempted to make a feature-length about a legend and a story and the subsequent ghost hunt. And as it turned out, it aired for 1 month and got shelved back in 2009, and we're only just talking about it nearly 20 years later, which has blown my mind. And the sad truth of it is there probably wouldn't be this documentary if there was still a Busby Stoop. But for me, it became something I had to do now that the Busby Stoop is, to me, a dead cell, an Indian restaurant with all of its characteristics ripped away, rotting away in time. And when I drove by it, because I was in the area at the beginning of this year, no one could have told me I would see that building, the sadness that I would feel, and then end up making a book, and then end up doing everything I could to make sure that we definitely didn't have those 8 tapes of the original investigation. And everything has felt like a chain that was meant to be, as sappy as that sounds. The book I write, and when I'm writing the book early in 2024, I'm using a degraded DVD -R of the episode that I'd originally edited, which was terrible. And the problem with that is it was an hour and a half documentary. There's so much missing footage. It's been cut down and condensed so much. So what we needed was these 8 tapes. And then the book's released. I'm selling the book for months. I'm enjoying reconnecting people with their memories of the Busby. And I went down to my parents in the South to collect our family videos on VHS. And at the bottom of a box was dozens and dozens of 8 tapes of my early work. And right at the bottom of that box, the last thing in the box was all of the Busby Stoop Masters. Unedited, original, raw.
How high in your throat did your heart go when you saw those 8 tapes?
The minute I saw them, I knew I wanted to make a documentary film.
Breezy on this side. This side is not breezy, this side it is.
Someone whistle. Who can whistle?
If you knew then what you know now, would you have done anything differently in the investigations?
Like most people, probably wish I hadn't screamed like a girl all the way through the first couple of years. I wished I hadn't thrown myself across the table and landed in a female crew member's lap. But on a serious note, no. Because for me, everything from how poorly it's made to how uneducated we were on some of it to the lack of equipment is what gives it its legitimacy.
Given that there's a lot of shows like Roseanne and now Malcolm in the Middle and are redoing their shows 25, 30 years later, would you want to get the band back together?
No.
No interest in doing it again?
There is a part of me that remembers the good times, and I think it would be really good fun to do it. But there is a better part of me that knows I've been involved in a lot of other projects where you get the band back together and it's always shite. You know, and I feel like I've worked in many sectors of the industry, from indie film to indie publishing, events, or the list goes on. And when we tried to recreate magic, it didn't happen. And it didn't feel the same. And also, I truly believe if we tried to repeat this now, whether we meant to or not, there would be a factor where we're competing against a world of short attention spans that need to be entertained. And I think crew members would fall under that. So no, my limits of what I want the world to see and have are the Busby documentary, which has exceeded all my expectations, and I'm incredibly proud of it now. And this video I'm here doing with you, where we're going to let people see some other clips from non-Busby stuff. And I don't feel a need to progress beyond that. I want to keep it legitimate, and I've even been thinking since doing the Busby stuff about setting locked off cameras around my house again. And then I go, but why? You know, and I suppose it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do some paranormal investigating for fun, but certainly not as a show. And I really have no interest in staying up in a hotel from 10 p.m. until 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning. That sounds really knackering now. I'm not quite sure how we used to do it. I really like to go to bed early now, when I can. And it sounds awful.
Well, you were a teenager when you did that. Teenagers have limitless amounts of energy.
Yeah, and we just kept going. I think if I stayed up till 4 in the morning now, I think I'd feel quite ill. You know, I have some late nights editing. I've had some late nights with the Busby experience recently. I get to 2 in the morning and I feel like I'm emotional because I just want to go to bed. So I've made that long-winded, but the answer is no, I don't want to do it again. It's really good and I want to keep it like that.
What do you want people to know most about your adventures as a young ghost hunter? What do you want people to take away from your experience?
Not something I expected at first, because I just wanted to secure the legacy of the Busby, and that was with my book. That was my absolute heartfelt mission, was to secure the legacy for a younger generation, because the story, the lore, the ghost hunt. It's incredible. You know, the whole story is brilliant, and it deserves to be told round campfires in years and years and years to come. To new generations of young people that could be scared by and tried by the Busby and wind each other up and run away screaming. And that's what I want us to do. But I think the one ambition since going back through all the tapes, in response to your question, I just think I want people to know I was there. I was there before, you know, I was one of the people that was really trying to be creative with technology at a very early time, and the limited technology I had. And I think that's what I want people to know, that I was just there and I existed and I believed in what I was doing.
If there's anyone here with us, which I'd like to think there is, can you do it again, if it was you? Because there's no proof yet, until you've done it once more, that that was caused by anything other than electrical fault. If you're here, give us a sign, make a sound, move your hand across the table, blow out the candle, do anything that you have in your power to make yourself known to us.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
Hello. Thank
Right.
you.
We've done what it asks us to. Right, we're going to set it again.
Excellent.
We're going to set it again. Sorry, that was me. I always have to remember which one to turn on first.
You're right.
Yeah.
Likes your voice, darling.
That was really good. If that was you, do it again. If you're still in the bar area, we know you can come over here now. Try again.
Or are you already here around us in the circle? Who are you stood next to? Is it Vicky? Don't mind you. Is it Vicky you stood next to? In fact, you're the one that set the with your question, you're the one that set the names off with the response, so you ask if they're next to you.
Are you here with me? Is it me you want to talk to?
And you're right.
Sweet.
I can't do this.
Okay.
So, do you think if MySpace actually had something like monetization that YouTube has and TikTok has and the others have, that the show would have been different?
Well, it was that same year of 2007 is as you rightly mentioned, we abandoned YouTube mostly, and we wanted to go with the unique, we are MySpace's first paranormal free network. And how that would work was we would just line up videos on MySpace that everyone could enjoy for free. It's a really difficult question because monetization just wasn't a thing. It and maybe it was better back then because monetization wasn't a thing. And you know, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because yet again there was still no gain to be made financially by entertaining people, and our show wasn't a success. There were people that watched it and people would comment and stuff. Every goal we set out to achieve, having a huge following, people discussing the phenomena that we would put up, it didn't come to fruition like we wanted it to. We were kids, and we didn't, for all that was admirable about it, the thing was we didn't have a fucking clue. The people on the internet didn't have a clue, a lot of them. This was all so new. But things work out how they're supposed to. It wasn't meant to take off back then. But I'm very glad we gave it a crack. You know, I recently discovered boxes. I came across posters we put up around town with our MySpace on and the promotional picture. And it was never for lack of trying. We really we really wanted to do something.
Well, tonight we're in Leighton Buzzard again, this series, so it's our second time. We're going to a private residence in Leighton Buzzard tonight to see a lass and her boyfriend who have got a baby and have been having some disturbances in the house. They've reported cupboard doors flying open, I think she said, among other various what would be seen as poltergeist activity. Was that above?
No, that was over here.
Yeah, that's where we had moved at the very beginning. If you could try and show us the light again, that'd be amazing.
Keep
Where
it on
would
the camera,
something come from?
and then you can be seen. If you hold it out a little bit, Holly, so Vicky can see the screen, she'll direct you on what's going on.
Okay, that's cool. Seems to be looking sort of here and there. They're the main areas where things have been going on.
That's where I've seen them reflect.
If you could open a cupboard, that'd be incredible now, that'd just be brilliant. Fuck! No, that's not even funny.
Come on. Right, hang on. That's the wall. I felt it. Oh my god, I felt it.
Jesus Christ. If you could open a cupboard, that'd be incredible now, that'd just be brilliant. Fuck! No, that's not even funny. Right, we're now back after we've composed ourselves. Now, what most of us are in agreement about is that it came from this wall, absolutely crashed down on this wall, until we are not editing it yet, so we don't really know how well the sound's projected, but we have listened to it back on a low volume because that's all we can, and the noise is still very loud. If you were in this room, that noise was incredibly loud. I mean, Vicky, the response time to when I called, it was a second after. What do you make of it all?
That was quite harrowing, actually.
What do you make of it?
If I was to sit down and look at that as an outsider, as paranormal activity, I certainly think that would be something I'd consider to be it rather than anything else. It did it.
What?
It did an orb across the oven, at the top of the oven.
Right, cut it.
Sorry.
Right, we've just looked back on the footage once again. Another powerful flashing light. These are a lot better than the floating lights we get that are obviously dust. These are quite good light anomalies, and we don't usually get them, and we don't usually get them on request either. Who asked for that to happen again? Vicky.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh no, it was you. It was me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, now we've seen another one right next to the sofa, which we'll show again in slow-mo.
It was me, wasn't it? Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. We very much appreciate and respect what you're doing. That didn't... That...
What was that?
What was that? Right.
Yeah.
My neck's a bit square. Put the V light on.
Where is it? Oh my god!
What the fuck? What's that? What even was that sound? What the hell was even that sound?
What was that?
It didn't even sound human. No. Do you know what I mean? It was weird.
How many episodes did you do?
So the main series that I produced with Vicky, I think released, there was about, I would say, including specials, about 25 to 30 episodes were released. But then, of course, we had the before content of that was for YouTube, just putting up clips, and they weren't really episodic. Then even before that, you had my own lock-off cameras that I was filming on. There are hundreds of hours of stuff. But yes, finessed episodes that actually got released that weren't. I think our rule for releasing episodes was it could be silent. There could have been not a lot that happened as long as there was a singular moment that was at least curious. So there were more episodes that were also never released because just really nothing happened. And that's how this should be, surely. We watch the TV episodes and they make an episode out of every episode. And nowadays, since I've been on this journey this year, I thought I'm going to watch some of the paranormal shows of these days. And I don't want to put anyone down, but it's the contempt they hold their audience in which offends me. Every episode, there's a demon to be exorcised on the property. There is a violent poltergeist. These, in terms of demonic, if that's a thing, is so rare, is so unbelievably rare. Yet there's shows that hold their audience to contempt now that would have you believe there was a demon in every house. And I'm just glad we never did that.
Yeah, it's all about entertainment now. The paranormal shows. It's very, very, very little of it has to do with any serious kind of investigating. It's almost like a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, and with you saying that, what I can add to it is I can assure people that 60% of our show was not entertaining. It was a bunch of teenagers in a dark room talking to the ether. But for all its issues on some of it, over dramatic crew members that screamed, and in fact I was cutting some clips for this conversation between us earlier today. Some of the early clips is just me running away screaming, and it's so humiliating. Because that's how we all start out. It's new and it's exciting, but then as I watch through, if you look at the Busby documentary, then we've got to 2008, and I am so set on the mission that I want to achieve. I'm not scared. I'm getting stuck in. By this point, I'd already been doing it years. But even to the 2007 episode in the first series, we were at a very notorious building called the Golden Fleece in York, which paranormal lovers will have heard of. No one's more surprised than me that they let us in there. And this was the first time we ever caught EVP on the show. And we caught something of substance. But what's funny about that is I don't like it so much watching it in hindsight. But what's funny about that moment is I had never heard anything like it. Well, what happened was we're recording, and what is strange, I'm sat there and I asked for someone to do so. It just comes into my head, and I asked someone to do something we've never done. And I go, can someone whistle? So Emma on the team whistles, and this screech sound comes back so loud that fills the room. And I leap out of the chair onto Emma's lap and go, ugh, like that. And even in the original episode cuts, because I found the original episode of it, I'd cut that humiliating bit out, but I'm going to leave it in because I'm in now, I'm now of the age I am and I don't care. And if everyone wants to laugh at it, that is absolutely fine. It is funny, but I've never heard something like that. So I end up on someone's lap. But luckily, when you go through to the Busby episode, I get my victory because when Thomas's voice is heard on EVP, the second and only time we've caught EVP, it's Emma that flies at me, me and Lynn. So it's the girls that fly at us. So that was I felt good after that. But what is interesting, I was going to say, the Golden Fleece moment is interesting But yet again, we loved it at the time. We never caught anything like that. We're like, oh my God, it's so scary. It's amazing. When I hear it back now, there's two parts of my brain. The first part of my brain goes, that screech sounds awfully like an animal. And I don't mean like a spirit animal. I mean someone's whistled. And it is like that screech comes back. Then there's the other side of my brain that goes, I suddenly tell someone to whistle, they whistle, and that happens. And it's all really convenient. And it's that moment would have to be so perfect for me to just go whistle, someone whistles and an animal responds. And we're in a second-story building in the middle of a city. We're not in a rural area. So it is interesting, it isn't interesting. I don't like it as much as I did nearly 20 years ago. But then I still go to myself, but the whole setup of it, the timing, the events, that's why I would still include it, because it's curious, even if I end up on Emma's lap and scream like a girl. But
well, I mean, to be fair, I probably would have screamed like a girl too.
it was horrifying. You know, I remember looking around the table, and when I was watching the clip back today, Vicky's just there with her hand over her mouth, you know, and the girls, you know, are freaked out. And these are people that had been doing this for a couple of years. Then we'd had bangs and taps and maybe seen a few things move. We'd had a door slam once, but this was a first EVP, and that was something so special. Whether it is a spirit or an entity or not, it is interesting. But then I take it to the Busby. How does it compare with that? Well, it doesn't. I mean, you know, I don't need to go back over it. Anyone that's watching this has watched the Busby documentary, and the two just simply don't compare. As I said, that Busby moment changed my whole trajectory of the paranormal. So,
If there's any ghosts, spirits, astral beings, or orbs here with us today, could you please give us a sign? What?
Can you hear that? We've got movement in here. Sounds like something.
Huh?
Sounds like footsteps in here.
Did anyone just hear that?
What?
Was that you? Oh my God.
Did someone just hum?
While Jane is saying we've got movement in here, listen again in the background, and sure enough, there is a hum. All the staff members were really quite frightened about this.
What?
Can you hear that? We've got movement in here. Sounds like something.
Huh?
Sounds like footsteps in here.
Did anyone just hear that?
What?
Was that you? Oh my God.
Did someone just hum?
I just heard it. I was right near you. That wasn't it. It's my fucking ear.
I just heard it. I thought it was one of you.
Yeah, was it literally like...
Did you hum,
Yeah,
Jess?
that wasn't us. That wasn't us.
Do it again, please.
Please do it again if that was you.
What's that?
Over here.
What?
Hello. Hello. Come on, do it again for us, please. It's fantastic what you're doing so far. Just a bit more, please. You've got footsteps, mate, I'm telling you.
I can hear them too.
Can you hear them?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that rapping or something?
I know, I heard it.
Is anyone hearing all the clicking and the noises?
Yeah, like metal objects. It
What?
seems to correspond
What?
to their voice.
What? Bring the camera over to the door.
Yeah, sorry, that was over there. I think that might be over there.
Please do it again. Can you not hear this?
There, over there.
No.
What, is there any equipment that make that noise?
The speakers don't actually work, so we're not on. So it's not.
Are you picking up a couple of those ones?
No, it's gone quiet.
If that was you doing fantastic, please make the clear sound again. Was it you that hummed? Hum for us again.
Yep.
What?
It's out there. It sounds like it's like a soft, breathy. Sort of. Yeah.
Is every door to the pub
Yeah,
locked, yeah?
Yeah.
No way,
No.
no.
Everyone who's inside the pub is in this room. Yeah. Definitely.
If that's you in the corridor, could you make a sound that we can hear in here? You're out there, we're in here.
That's a slight echo of people talking in the street, so it's like...
I'm not even saying there's anything to do with paranormal. I just feel so fucking rough. Are you in there?
All right, and finally, what would you tell teenagers today who want to follow in your footsteps, or maybe not necessarily your footsteps, but want to do paranormal investigating?
Go and do it. Just have fun. You know, it depends what you believe. You know, people said to me back then, you shouldn't do that. It's dangerous. And I used to say, but why? And they used to say, you can get things attached. Well, I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe in any of that. I believe that if you are a strong person with boundaries, and I feel very protected in my life, I feel very strong with these sorts of things. So people watching this will argue with me and say, but this happened to me, but that happened to me. And that's fine. But my belief that keeps me safe and my experiences is that the other side can't hurt me. It can't do anything to me because I am in control of it. I allow in what I want to allow. I tolerate what I want to tolerate. So if a young person asked me, I'd say, don't be afraid. Go and have some fun. Be responsible. Be respectful. If you believe there is such a thing as spirit, then treat them respectfully like you would a human being because they were a human being. And if you act with some respect, and if you come across something that seems dark or dangerous or not fun, then walk away. Stop messing with it if you feel you can't. But if you feel you can, then I very unresponsibly tell you to go ahead, just like I did. We've had stuff thrown. We've had games that were not that didn't seem fun on nights, you know, where it felt negative. But it can't hurt me. And it can't and it won't. And it was the same at the Busby. Um just slightly different to your question, but I remember when I wrote my book, I was in first promoting the book, and I said the name Thomas Busby to someone, and they went, "Oh, that bastard." And I felt angry. I felt angry inside. I felt protective of Tom because no matter what the story was, my life continued to be weird after I left the Busby stoop. And as nuts as people may think I am, I still feel him all around. You know, and that's incredible. I left the Busby, things carried on happening. I shut that paranormal side down for years. The minute I wrote that book, the weirdness started again in my own home. But it was never negative, and I'm not afraid. And so, yeah, young people, go and get your friends. Don't even get a camera. It doesn't have. Why do you have to film it? There's so much content in the world. If you want to film it, you can. If you want to prove things, just go and enjoy yourself. Learn, because even at the very least, if you come to the conclusion that the paranormal is a load of shite and it's not real, then at least you had some fun and laughs doing it. And that's my advice.
All right. One more quick question, because you're talking about Thomas Busby. Got me thinking about this. What would you tell Thomas Busby now? What would you say to him if he were standing there in front of you about your experiences and what you think about it?
Thank you, is what I'd say to him. And I have thanked him in my own way, because that investigation opened up doors that wouldn't open for nearly another 2 decades. And it sounds really odd, but I feel like, and I say this in a positive way, I want to sound crazy enough to say that I feel like I was a pawn in Thomas's plan. Because what I've realized after what I've realized after this year is that documentary was never meant to be anything all that time ago. And then I used to say to myself, but then why did such a fun investigation happen with so much information and so much weirdness afterwards? Well, I've come to the conclusion that that investigation was done and Thomas spoke to me and trusted me with his story to tell the truth for when the Busby no longer existed one day. And that's what I say to myself. People poo-poo that, but it all feels like too much is slotted into place like a perfect puzzle piece. And I also feel like, God, am I still talking about spirit here? But I feel like I was trusted with an important thing, an important story. I don't know how true this is, but at the time, staff at the Busby said Thomas had never spoken to another team. And if you watch the footage on the extra features, at the beginning of the investigation. He comes in straight away, but he is reticent and standing back from the group, and he will not talk to Lynn. And we move around the whole building, and he will not talk. Then when we get to the bar and he steps forward and talks to us, he then comes with us the whole weekend to the museum. Everywhere we went, he was with us. And Lynn told me on the way back that he would stay with me. There's various other thought processes behind that. But yes, when I was at home in Kettering in Northamptonshire as a 17-year-old boy, the year following the Busby, if I called to Thomas, I could make something happen in my room. And so yeah, tangent again, but thank you for an incredible experience is what I'd say to them.